When it comes to ESPN in 2024, it's almost a cliche of how much bias they have for the Lakers, and specifically LeBron James. And the attention they get, the media coverage they get, is simply unwarranted. As looking at this team for the past 2 years, barely above 500 and always in the bottom half of the Western Conference. And my biggest problem with the so-called La Media is how they treat LA in losses versus in wins. The Lakers last week versus the Clippers, who were missing Paul George, they got a big time win. And LeBron in the fourth quarter, he was tremendous. But here's my problem. After that one game, that one great fourth quarter, ESPN's headline the next day, did Wednesday's performance prove LeBron can carry the Lakers? That was the headline, the takeaway from the Lakers winning one game versus the lowly Clippers. I mean, to have this headline after one game, how delusional are you? And again, it's a nice win, no doubt. But here's the inconsistency. When the Lakers lose, that same energy is never applied. I mean, the very next game, they lost to Denver in the fourth quarter, where a complete 180 from that Clippers game. The media refused to acknowledge this Lakers team is highly inconsistent. And when it comes to LeBron James or Anthony Davis, nobody is carrying this team single-handedly. And here's the big-time kicker. Anthony Davis, the season he's been phenomenal. And still the media will ask, can LeBron James carry this Lakers team? If you already hate ESPN and the media, let me just tell you, you don't hate them enough. As looking at AD this year, 25 points per game, 12 boards, third in the NBA, nearly 4 assists, 2.5 blocks, that ranks 5th, and shooting-wise, the best of his career in Los Angeles. You can debate LeBron versus Anthony Davis, who's LA's best player. It's a pretty tight race, and from game to game, matchup to matchup, it does fluctuate. Point still remains. Nobody is carrying this roster single-handedly. I mean, in addition to Anthony Davis, you have D'Lo, Reeves, Rui, some really great depth 3-and-D players, and shooters. I mean, those three guys right there, D'Lo, Reeves, and Rui, on any given night can get you 20 points with ease. Very few teams in the NBA have that luxury. And looking at past legends, the narrative for those guys is much, much different than LeBron James. I mean, look at Jordan, for example. Scottie Pippen, 96, 97, and 98. In the playoffs, it was pretty meh. Around 18 points, 7 boards, 5 assists on 41, 29, and 70 splits. If you put LeBron James on that Bulls team, here's what ESPN would say. Well, LeBron James once again carrying the Bulls to 3 straight championships. Scottie Pippen, below average shooter, not an elite scorer. LeBron James carried this guy to 3 straight titles. That'd be the narrative for LeBron James if he had Scottie Pippen. Because once again, when he has Anthony Davis, a 25-point game player, top 5 defender, they'll still say he's carrying that team. And a fair point someone might make about Pippen is that 96-98 defensively, he was still great. Offensively, took a massive dip, but defensively, he was still there for the most part. And look, that is a fair point. But here's the thing, be consistent. If you want to talk defense, looking at LeBron in 2023, it is never discussed when ranking him, calling him better than Anthony Davis, or idiotically saying he is carrying the Lakers. LeBron, 19 on defense, is either 1, a statue, 2, playing free safety, or 3, guarding the worst player on the opposing team. And look, 39 years old, don't fault him for that. But defensively, Anthony Davis, this year, like I said, top 5 defender, can guard 3 through 5, maybe a 2 guard, and is elite at protecting the rim and the paint. And kind of the perfect segue when looking at media narratives, false narratives. One of the oldest of all time, the Scottie Pippen, saved Michael Jordan. And Jordan before Pippen was absolutely nothing. We've heard this argument for years on end, and it never seems to stop. And again, speaking of consistency, If you say Pippen saved Jordan, what did Anthony Davis do for LeBron James in Los Angeles? As many forget, LA in 2019, when they had LeBron James, they won 2 more games in the previous year when they didn't have him at all. And LeBron infamously said late in the year he was activating playoff mode and still missed the playoffs in embarrassing fashion. If you look at 2020, however much you count that championship, what's the one big X factor and the thing that changed? Of course, Anthony Davis. If you're going to say Pippen saved Jordan, Anthony Davis in Los Angeles saved LeBron James. And to kind of debunk that Pippen saved Jordan narrative, once again, look at Pippen's first series alongside Jordan compared to AD's first series beside LeBron James. AD versus Portland averaged 29.8 points per game, 9.4 boards, 4.2 assists on impeccable shooting splits that were off the charts. And for the entire 2020 postseason, Anthony Davis by far was LA's best defender and defender in general for the entire NBA. Compare that to Scottie Pippen, who in his first series with Jordan averaged 10.6 points, 5 boards, 2 assists on 47% shooting, 0% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line. Pippen at that point was a role player coming off the bench. If you're going to say that version of Scottie Pippen saved Jordan 88, what did Anthony Davis do in 2020 for LeBron James as a Laker? And to kind of nail this point home, going one step further, look at someone like Kobe. From 01 to 03, this guy, 29 points, 6 boards, 5 assists on 45% shooting. When it comes to Kobe from 01 to 03, even now 20 years later, he is scrutinized for putting up those numbers as a number 2. But here's the funny thing. Those same fans say Pippen saved Jordan by averaging 10 points per game. They'll say Kobe in those 3 years was carried by Shaq despite averaging 29. These two false narratives cannot coexist at the same time. And looking back at LeBron James, the overall notion in 2024 he's carrying the Lakers of all teams is just laughable. It's not 2018-07, it is 2024. Look at the roster, the help he has. It's more than enough, and he's not carrying them in any degree. If you want to get real about it, Michael Jordan's first year in Washington, he carried that team more than LeBron James this season. As looking at Jordan pre-injury, he averaged 24.6 points, Rip Hamilton was second best player at 19.3, Washington as a team averaged 92.8 points, and their record was 27-25. Looking at LeBron for the Lakers, 25.3 points per game, Anthony Davis, second best player, 25 points per game, and LA as a team, 117.1 points per game. If you look at the raw numbers, Jordan and Washington had far less help, and percentage-wise, scored more points than LeBron James in 2024. If you want to say either of those players was quote-unquote carrying a roster, Jordan and not LeBron was the one doing so. And to kind of go full circle in this video, when it comes to ESPN 24/7 365, LeBron James and the Lakers are constantly talked about. And Charles Barkley recently called out ESPN for their clear Laker bias and LeBron slant.
Chuck is laughing.
Because I'm so sick of these fools on other networks talking about the Lakers and the Warriors. We don't brag about any other play-in teams, do we? I understand Steph is great and LeBron is great. Ain't nobody worried about the Lakers and the Warriors in the West.
So Chuck's comments right there, of course, were on point per usual. But here's the funny thing. The Lakers' LeBron James are always in the headlines. But one thing I couldn't help but noticing, when it comes to LeBron James being accused of steroids, that is never brought up or discussed on ESPN. I mean, it's been done twice by two prominent figures. First, Chael Sonnen, UFC champion, and now Kevin Garnett, of course, NBA champion. I mean, they haven't even touched these things in passing. And I wouldn't be surprised if ESPN had some kind of memo as if this subject was off limits company-wide. And if you look at ESPN, the NBA, and Disney, those three companies, I mean, it's just one and the same. And a player like LeBron James, the cash cow of the NBA, if it came out he did steroids, had cheated in some way, that would be terrible for business. And if a superstar player of LeBron's ilk was doing steroids, was cheating, trust me, it wouldn't come out for 10 to 20 years. But here's the thing, eventually, if something happened, it will come out. And much like Lance Armstrong, when the big domino falls, there'll be 2, 3, 4, eventually 15, 20, 30 who follow that main domino that first fell. So that right there is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.